All right. So I hurt myself vocally because I was trying to do some vocal exercises, which obviously in the trying to do vocal exercises for the show.
Okay.
Spe- Well, I was singing Candlebox. I sing a few songs to try to loosen up my vocal cords, and I've discovered that singing Candlebox is You is not one of the songs I should sing because it wrecked my throat.
All right. Yeah, that would.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay. Let's make
so
sure we are.
I'll stick to Eddie Vedder. Thanks. Eddie
Sure.
Vedder, Eddie Vedder, and Axl Rose. So that's my that's my wheelhouse of ability to sing. So
All right. Well,
yeah,
you are maybe a little bit loud.
I
Just a
button is
little.
trying to remember which, but that's the settings button. I'm like, what button is that again, Daniel? It's been so long since you've touched this thing. Uh, let's see here. Okay. Output. That's output volume. I'm currently at no. Right, output volume. Okay, so at 90. How's this? Better? Better.
Yes.
Too loud?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're not redlining now.
All right, let me put me, because I'll probably redline a little later, so let me put me down to 85. All right, how's this? Is this not too, this
That's
is
fine.
okay?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Because I don't want to, blow out everybody's eardrums.
Yeah, you're clipping a little. I don't know if that's your electrical interference again or what.
It shouldn't be. There's no wires touching it.
Hmm.
I will fix that and just remove that to completely there. Is that any better? Is that any better? Any better? Any
I
better?
haven't heard it. No. Yeah.
Okay.
Seems to have
Okay.
quit. Oh,
All
I
right.
should put
So,
my mail. It's so it doesn't keep pinging noise.
yeah.
Stupid
Um,
noise.
so I read Elizabeth Warren's congratulation to Senator Harris.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very well done and very. I enjoyed it. My only problem with it is I don't think she's going to push Biden enough to the left, and that was my only reason for pushing for Warren. Other than that, I don't care because vice presidents really don't have a whole lot to do. Pardon me. I mean,
Man,
let's
you
be
are clipping.
really.
Yeah, I don't know if it's your mic or what, but I
Let's
mean, you're
try this.
understandable. It's just this occasional like artifact.
Okay. It
Uh,
could be also that I'm on a computer that's 7 years old, and I definitely do need to not have trees fall down in other people's yards and me have to pay for that. So I could get a new computer. That would be great. That was cool.
okay.
Yeah, when we had that bit of wind from our hurricane, I
Mm-hmm.
had some trees fall down into other people's yards, and and I had to pay to get that removed because it also took out part of my
In other
chain link.
people's yards. Why didn't they pay for it? Or the electric
Because
company, for that matter? Like, I don't understand.
no, it was my tree. It was
Mm,
my tree in my yard, so it
gotcha.
fell
Yeah,
into their yard. So,
gotcha.
and my brother was like, "Well, why don't you just call the insurance?" Or a couple of people was like, "Why don't you call the insurance?" Well, first off, it goes against your insurance lifetime insurance thing. Secondly, they only pay up to $500, and if I have a $500 deductible, there's no point, and it really wasn't a point.
That's not
And
insurance. What do you mean they only pay up to 500
for
if
tree
that's your
removal,
deductible?
wait, no, okay, so let's say it's $1,000 to remove the trees. It wasn't. It was only $150 to do it. But let's say it's $1,000 total to remove the trees that have fallen in a yard.
Mm-hmm.
Most homeowners insurance only pays up to $500 for tree removal whatsoever.
Gotcha.
Remember, I used to work insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one of the things. And so, anyways,
Anyway, I'm ready when you are. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Are you? Are
Excuse
you?
me.
Are you? Are you okay with the first? Are you okay with the first quote?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
L-
And I have my buttons here, so
Okay.
you won't be able to
So
hear it, but our stuff will be in there.
perfect. You go for it.
And you're gonna do that stick, and then I'll push the button for the
Yeah, I'll
Aretha.
say.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do the. And our stick tonight is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Devil is amongst us. Stay back, boy. This calls for divine intervention. I kick ass for the Lord.
If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. The lie can be maintained only for such time as the state can shield the people from the political, economic, and or military consequences of the lie. It thus becomes vitally important for the state to use all of its powers to repress dissent. For the truth is the mortal enemy of the lie, and thus by extension, the truth is the greatest enemy of the state. Joseph Goebbels.
Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with very much. Luke 16:10. Let's talk about dishonesty in public discourse.
Welcome, folks, to Heresy and Hearsay, a podcast to reclaim faith in the context of political discussion. I'm September, and you can follow me on Twitch and Twitter at 9 of 12, and hear me on the Geek Grills podcast. Heresy and Hearsay has a Patreon site that you can find at patreon.com/heresy and hearsay. You can visit there and support us. Just $2 a month goes a long way to help us keep making this humble show. You can also contribute with bits in Twitch or subscribe for free if you have Amazon Prime. With me, the man with the word about the word, Reverend Barney.
Salutations, true believers. I'm Reverend Barney, and you can follow me on Twitter at SethRothII. You can also follow the show on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and any podcast catcher. Just look for us on Heresy and Hearsay. I'll eventually get that right. Please, please like, share, subscribe, and follow us. Also, give us a review that helps others find us. We have a new and improved website to find our past shows as well as our bios. Just find us, go to heresyandhearsay.com. So today we're going to talk. This has been something that's been building, and it's just gotten exponentially more ridiculous as the coronavirus has come about. There's always been untruths is what they like to use. Lies is what
Or truthiness, as Colbert coined.
as Colbert truthiness, yes, which was a polite way of not calling a politician a liar. And this is going, and don't get me wrong, this is on both sides. I will be one of those for once. This is on both sides. We can both agree that, for example, one of the big lie when I became more politically active and everything, Bill Clinton was in office, and we all know he lied on the witness stand. That was a provable lie in the situation, and he was disbarred and impeached because of it and everything. So, lies happen on both sides as far as the political discourse. What I have noticed, especially in the past 4 years, is just how the political discourse, especially in the media side, it's always been, well, this is false or this is untrue or whatever, to where news people are just out and out calling people liars, or calling the president a liar or calling senators liars, and I think it's an interesting change, and I welcome it in some respects,
I
but
think internet culture definitely helped with the momentum of that sort of call out culture, for lack of a better term there, but where you can get live at the moment fact checking going on through news sites, like
Hmm.
just that ability to check it, source it, be able to go to a site and say, what is someone's position on this, what did they say, but what is their history, like that easy reference that
Hmm.
has been collated by, sites where you can educate yourself politically. I think definitely lent to it just being, people would assume it was hearsay when you just tell someone, well, actually they did this, actually they said that, that kind of discourse. um, Now we have, the book of all knowledge in our pockets with our smartphones that can show people, like, nope, here's the facts. Here's the legislation they wrote. Here is a video of them saying this shit.
Yeah, and so at that point, then and it's become very acute when we're talking about scientific evidence. And we've discussed the virus, and YouTube's going, if we were monetized, which we're not because we're too small of a channel, but if we were monetized, mentioning the word coronavirus on YouTube automatically gets you demonetized. And I don't know why. That's just ridiculous in its own right. And that's another thing about when you talk about, you know, disinformation, is that you've got big companies like Google, who owns YouTube, basically saying, if you say this word will automatically get this particular video demonetized. But you're trying to put out information about the coronavirus. But because you're saying something about the coronavirus, and because Joe Bob down the street, who also has a little bit of a following, has been spreading lies, now you're all lumped together. And that's also part of it. And so,
Well, some sites are being a lot more careful about that than others.
well, true, but a lot of these sites, Twitter, Facebook, we're going to focus on the big three, which is
Okay.
Twitter. Smaller sites are a little different for different reasons, but Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, they do censoring now. But at least with I know with YouTube, and I believe with Twitter as well, they use an algorithm, and they use basically bots to check certain things as
Right, but
far
you
as,
just said YouTube is pulling anything that even mentions coronavirus?
they don't, no, they're not pulling it, they're pulling misinformation, but
Okay.
they're demonetizing anything.
Oh. Yeah, I think that's kind of too far. Like
It's like there's channels I
that's not
watch, like,
okay.
yeah, and that's the thing. It's because at that point, I understand YouTube's a place for, initially, me and you are old enough to remember when YouTube was a place for quirky videos where anybody could load it up, and the guys who invented YouTube got bank for selling YouTube to Google. But it was a place where quirky videos were put up, and that's where, like, Let's Go, or what was the name of that band? I can't remember that, but there was a band that became famous because of their YouTube videos and stuff like that. Let's Go. That's the name of the band. Sorry. That's where it was. And then it became a corporation. And they are very algorithmic, and very, um,
Well, they
and
are.
they're,
They all
mhm,
have to be to an extent. There's a sheer volume of content that's
right,
being, allowed to be uploaded and in some cases monetized.
right.
Um, Demonetizing outright is, I think, a little extreme. I've been liking the way Facebook has been handling it. There are some people having really strange arguments against it, but they will pull things or screen, based on, and Twitter is my understanding, if it just has outright false information in it, like Trump's Junior's account got suspended, like until you
Right.
remove this post. Like, this is false and it could hurt people. You can't put that here. And I'm okay with that kind of deplatforming. And again, that's not a monetizing situation. And then Facebook has been pulling things based on some things are like, this is against our content guidelines. And I've seen people post, like, somebody in my feed posted the screenshot of Facebook saying this is against our policy, although we support free speech. This has potentially harmful false content in it. And she was just ranting about how this is, she didn't say oxymoronic. It's probably too big a word for her, but she was complaining about how hypocritical it was because they said they supported free speech, but then wouldn't let her post the truth. And it was those shit from that doctors group that was created.
About the demon sperm.
Yes. Well, it wasn't about that, but it was that lady's shit. And I was like, I keep you from spreading the truth. And then my daughter posted something just the other night, and it was a graphic representation of the death rates by different causes worldwide, and an overtime representation of, how we are not handling that very well here in the United States. And Facebook didn't pull it. They didn't warn her. They didn't, do anything to punish her. They simply, when the article pops up, it puts a little window in for me saying, hey, here, you should read this. It's a fact check about that graph and about the few things they did not include, which skews the way that looks somewhat. And that was incredibly well done. I showed her. I was like, you should know that Facebook is inserting this, hey, here's a fact check on that on your post. And she read it and she's like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. They didn't include heart disease. And of course that's annoying because some people will just glom onto any reason to not believe facts.
Right.
But it's a matter of how you read the statistics. So it wasn't a bad fact-checking article. They didn't yank her post or censor it in any way. And I really appreciate that. I like when there's, hey, here's the other side, or at least the pop-ups you get now, too, that are like, this source is not real solid.
Right.
Because
right.
they have posted so much false shit. Like, you might want to recheck this source. Like, people apparently, I don't need those reminders, but a lot of people could use them and need to start clicking that shit.
It's like, are you sure you want to go to Fox News to get your news? I'm just, to be fair,
like, you realize this is satire, right? Could we get some of those too?
Oh yeah, it's, the Onion is probably like, why are we still in business again? Because really, we can't.
I haven't seen much from them lately, huh? I just don't have to.
It's like, well, I'll see them post something, and like a week later, the president will do something very close to it, and they'll be like, "This is not the suggestion."
Like, oh crap! Did we invoke 2020?
It's like, we're sorry. But for those who don't know, The Onion is a satirical website that is supposed to mock the news. Unfortunately, most of their mocking lately has been stuff that has actually happened. So it's been pretty, they've been not well. As a comedy writer, you go,
not funny.
Right. Comedy writers. Well, comedy writers, as those who don't know, comedy writers basically take something and take it to the extreme. Unfortunately, that's where we are currently in real life, and you don't know how to extrapolate from that other than Cthulhu.
Yeah.
So, But yeah, so Twitter is doing that. I remember Donald Trump losing his ever loving mind when Twitter first posted one of his things, said, "This may not be completely accurate." You
Mm-hmm.
know? And he just lost his. It's like, this is against the First Amendment. Actually, no,
Yeah,
you can't
that's
tell
not
me what.
how this works.
Yeah, we are a private business, and it's like I saw a post somewhere that is about masks. And it's like, yes, you have a right not to wear masks. I, as a business, have a right not to serve you and let you into my establishment either. No, this is not an infringement on your rights because you have a right to your, you have a right to your expression, but your expression comes with consequences. And there's a difference between a right. The First Amendment means the government, especially the United States government, cannot infringe on First Amendment rights. But we do. It's you can't shout, fire in a crowded theater. That is a law. There are certain things that you can't do hate speech. That is a law. So they do infringe on it, but it is in specific situations that can cause harm to other people. And if your speech is like about being an anti-vaxxer or being, about demon sperm, I don't even want to get into that. That is a whole wow, Jesus. Jesus save us. And our president's retweeting her, and I'm like, all right, and stuff like that, then that has consequences of being shown as being stupid or wrong,
Right.
in a lot of respects.
That's not the government trying to stop you from,
Right,
oh, I don't know, legal protest,
right,
which
which
is against First Amendment rights.
right, which then you get, what happened in Portland, and that's a whole nother thing, and we'll talk about that later. Anyways,
Yeah.
not this show. That's a whole different topic, and anyways. So today, I had pre-watched it. So today, September, spent the day, and I'm pretty sure took several breaks. Spent today watching the Jonathan Swan interview of Donald Trump.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I did it while I was running errands, so there were built-in like breaks.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go into Aldi and take some deep breaths outside while I walk in. Um, yeah, that was painful. I will say he used more. Oh, he used more sentences than he normally does, which almost made it worse because I hate his hyperbolic way of speaking. Everything is huge, and then if even if you say, yeah, that's big, it's not big enough. It's massively big, and it's huge, and we're incredible and the best, and blah blah blah, and that's irritating. But he was at least saying sentences and finishing them. However, his early on, starting, they were talking about the statistics around COVID,
Right.
and Jonathan was trying to, talk about that. And Trump had this pile of paper with, like, oh my God, like bar graphs that may as well have been in
That,
crayon. And
yeah.
kept making this. Well, there's more tests. There's more tests, so there's more virus. But we are so tremendously great at testing compared to anyone else. And I mean, that's not true on many levels. And the reporter was very patient with, like, okay, all right, yes, you're doing a lot of tests. That's not even what I'm asking. And finally, when he got a word in, was like, well, I'm looking at death. How about instead of we talk about, like, because Trump just trying to push this agenda of, like, there's more tests, so there's more death, and that's statistically outrageous because although that seems true, it's a true ism. Because the way statistics works, like, well, no, because you can still look at the percent positive before and after, no matter the amount of tests. The percent positive is a better reflection of spread. Or you can, like this reporter pointed out, just look at death. And
Right.
Trump just kept insisting, no, see, here, and flapping this silly bar graph around and trying to say, well, this is how statistics work, but you have to look at the way I'm reading them to hear what I'm saying. It's like, it doesn't matter what you're saying isn't true. You're trying to prove it by reading the statistics the way you want. It doesn't change the fact that the numbers are rising. No, they're going down. See? Where is it going down? Because it was 1,000 a day, and then it was 500 a day, and now it's 800 a day again. That's going back up. And Trump just could not even wrap his mind around it. He just kept, well, I have this other graph, and none of it backed up what his line. And I get frustrated enough with politicians that do that in general. Like, they don't answer the question. They just circle around linguistically to the talking point they want to talk about.
Right.
And he was doing that in an even more over-the-top, worse fashion of refusing to answer questions. He did it about Afghanistan. He did it about COVID. Just mind-blowing when you give numbers or ask him for a date. Saying he did something. Oh, well, you didn't do that. Well, I'm going to do that. Well, when are you going to do that? I'm not going to say. And then the gymnastics around him. Oh, that's fake news. And that's fake news. And, I get, and it's only the media that says that. The experts and the people that really know stuff say this. And the reporter will be like, well, who's that? Well, the people that really know, not the fake news. But then turn around later in the interview and Trump will look at the guy straight in the face and be like, well, but I mean, have you seen the news? Like, when it was convenient to try to use his... I watch NBC for my fake news. But then I saw this thing on this other source that he wouldn't name.
Oh, it was...
Shit. Breitbart, probably.
No, it was Onan, which is like Fox to the extreme. And I'm like, I watched an hour of OAN, and I'm like, okay, I need a long shower with a Brillo pad. I feel really dirty about them.
You're trying to blame the police when it's Antifa.
Yeah.
Which
and
you can't even say right, but
but here's the thing: did you notice that it worked in some respects? It wore Jonathan Swan down.
That's not how I saw it. I saw him treating Trump like the child he is and coddling through so that he didn't lose his access. Because that's what Trump does. Yeah. If you ask a question too pointedly or disagree with him too hard, you get kicked out and you can't come to pressers anymore, let alone get this kind of face-to-face interview. And I saw him as handling Trump, and he still managed to ask some very difficult things and pose them. And Trump, I mean, no one thinks that it was a successful interview. There's probably a handful of people who just think, ooh, but he had these great points, but they're already lost. Even though he had complete sentences, and then it was still such an intellectual failure on the arguments and the statistics and his huckstery shit and the lack of history knowledge. Like, it was extremely evident to me he hasn't any fucking idea what he's doing. His placing the value of buildings in his arguments about it's okay to send unmarked vehicles and Border Patrol officers to grab people in Portland and cart them off. his only points were about how much those buildings were worth that had graffiti on them and stuff. Oh.
It's Portland. Portland has a demonstration every day. I have a friend who lives in Portland. Portland is she basically told me, and she's part of the culture and
Yeah, I have a
whatever. She
bunch of
basically
friends there.
so basically they say that Portlandia is pretty much a documentary in some respects for those. It's a little extreme, but not by much in some respects. So,
Right.
so Portland is like, I'd like to see them try that. You notice he threatened Chicago, but he didn't do it. So I'd like to see him try that in Chicago, because Portland's very nice and very friendly and everything else.
Yeah.
Chicago, they'll just beat their asses. Just be straight up honest. So,
Yeah.
Chicago won't put up with that crap. But no, I'm just yeah, I watched that video and I watched it, and I kept going, Jesus, I'm so tired. I would just get up and leave, because I couldn't. I don't have that kind of patience. I would have lost my ever loving mind. The fact that he sat there for what, at least what we saw was about 40 minutes. So there's probably more footage than that.
Well, you'd
So
see him he'd start to get just a little flabbergasted, frustrated, and then just go blank. Like the poor guy, like his face, like, I cannot have any reaction right now, or this is going to explode.
I'm sure as soon as he got out of there and got like to where he could go, he's like, Jesus.
Yeah. I would have, like, I like to think I could have handled it, and then I would have gone somewhere and like just actually jumped up and down physically to just. I mean, I was thankfully the bit about how he's done more for black people than any president since Lincoln. And that's where you saw Swan start to lose a little bit. He was like, "What? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Like LBJ, the Civil Rights Act? Are you seriously saying what you've done is all right? What have you done? Oh, okay, yeah. The Civil Rights Act was nothing. Like he kind of got really frustrated there.
Yeah,
and
no.
then it led into, and then Trump was talking about just his referring to black folks as they and them. Just so nonchalantly, I'm sure he thought it was completely inoffensive or whatever. But it's, well, no. He's got to fucking know. But it was like, their unemployment was lower than it ever was, and they had money, and they had more housing, and it was they, them, they. That's pitting us and them.
Yeah.
And it's so deeply ingrained in the way he just thinks about other people at all. And
well, it's not.
That led directly into the discussion about like John Lewis, and Trump was just like, "Oh, I didn't really know him. I never really met him. He didn't come to my inauguration. He didn't come to my State of the Unions." And that's his right, but I think he made a big mistake. Talking about a civil rights icon who's put his life on the line, including during when the civil rights movement was passed. Like, Trump's obliviousness was disgusting and disrespectful, and I was just so sorry. I was just.
It's okay.
I'm getting really. I actually got like sick to my stomach, nauseous. I barely made it into my driveway and to shut it off and to the end of that interview, because I have had the privilege to meet John Lewis. So,
and the fact that he said, "Well, I don't know what his legacy is going to be," is like,
yeah. What do you think his legacy is going to be?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. I mean, he put his heart into it like for a long time, but so did a lot of people. Holy shit, dude.
Like, I saw that. I'm like, oh, that's going to play well. And what was the other one about the deaths that he said? Going back to the coronavirus, real quick, he said something that's like, well, it is what it is. Yeah, I think it was that. I think it was that interview where he basically said, "That's what. Well, they are what it is. What it is." It's like, yeah, sure, we'll go with that. We'll go with it is what it is. You but yeah, so if that, and then you correlate it to John Lewis, is like, of course he was not going to have anything nice to say, or at least he didn't say anything bad. I will get. I
Well,
will.
if we want to get down to the false witness stuff,
Yeah.
it was also brought up in the interview about Russia hiring contractors to kill our soldiers,
Right.
and how he's just, oh, but we weren't on the phone to talk about that, so I'm not going to talk about that. Like, have you ever talked to anyone from Black Lives Matter? Well, no one's asked me to. And the Russia arming the Taliban. Well, I mean, we used to do that too. But I mean, it's different now. And I mean,
No.
we don't know they're doing that. Like, yes, it's been on record they said they're doing that. Well, I don't know. Like, you should know.
Because here's the
Everyone
thing.
else knows. This is public information. This isn't like speculation you're being asked about in reference to our national security.
The commander in chief, you above everybody else should know. So
Oh my god.
why?
I read so much. You read your security briefings? Oh yeah, yeah. Now we know in the past it said he doesn't. Now he's
Yeah.
saying he does. And then it's like, oh, and I'm so busy. I have so many meetings. Sometimes one a day. Sometimes a couple times a week. That's not a lot of meetings. A lot of you are working from home right now. My husband has like probably 6 meetings a day on average and has to get his work done in between. The President of the United States thinks a couple meetings a week is a lot of meetings.
Well,
And
he also
one
has.
report a day that he reads sometimes is a lot of reading.
And well, he also has to go out and try to belittle women reporters. That takes a lot of time for him. Like yesterday, where a woman asked him a pointed question, and he stomped off because like a little child.
Mm-hmm.
So because he's a. I, anyway, so I know we're talking a
And
lot
she
about
was
Trump.
calling him on a piece of false information he had spit.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing, and I posted this just because Trump recently, and we'll get off Trump. I know we're talking a lot about Trump, but because he's in the political
Oh,
spotlight
he's
right
the
now,
liar in chief.
he definitely is that. This weekend, for those who don't know, he signed 4 executive orders that he claimed was going to supersede the stimulus stuff that he was talking about, that are in talks with the Democrats, because the Democratic Party is wanting, according to him, and I'll use his words, wanting to fund failed cities and states ran by Democrats. It's not what the case is, but anyways, so one of them is that the extra money for the unemployment is $400 instead of 600, and it's not legal. But he also wants the states can't get that money unless they pony up 25% of it. He's doing a employee tax holiday, which all that means is that I'm still going to pay my employee tax from my paycheck, and my employer is going to hold on to it. And he claims that if he wins re-election, which if he wins re-election, I'm going to the Atlantic Ocean and swim across it, because at that point I've given up, and I'm going to attempt to swim it. That he's going to make that permanent. A, he can't make that permanent without Congress, and B, if he makes that permanent, there goes Social Security and Medicare, because that's what that tax is. See that
my understanding about the payroll tax is it does actually suspend the payroll tax. People will not have it taken out of their check.
That's not what. Well, I've read several different things, and some say they will. Some say that companies will probably still take it out and put it because it's a holiday, because they still may be charged at the end of the year. That they'll just hold it into a fund in case they have to pay it at the end of the year. I don't know. So I've read a couple of different things about that. The third one was student loan, which is more of a suggestion, and the other one was also was not even a suggestion. It was the eviction thing, which is coming up. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be having eviction issues, and it was basically HUD trying to figure out how to help these people, coming up with suggestions so that these people can find assistance. It's not an actual moratorium on evictions like it was earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, none of this is, and according to a lot of legal scholars, none of this is actually legal to begin with.
Right, but it'll push through, and then it'll have to go through courts and everything, and yeah.
Right.
The bigger one of the bigger problems I see with this payroll tax issue is the same, and this is an ongoing long-term Republican tactic, is that we'll cut your taxes, and then everybody is like, yay, I like having more money, and I'm getting more money in my paycheck. And there's a couple different ways that fails. One in services, of course, but then there are a lot of people that if their employers did not keep the withholding from, or if their withholding documents for the tax service didn't transfer to their unemployment,
right,
and they got that unemployment bonus, they're going to owe a bunch of tax on that. The one person I do know receiving that benefit locally, though, her withholding did transfer over. So hopefully that was, at least at a federal level, done for most people, or we're going to have a lot of very hurting people. The other thing about that is sneaky, and I have great concern about it, people liking it so much, having the reduction in their payroll tax of 12.6% or whatever it is their contribution is, because the employers will still be paying that for the holiday, is that it defunds Social Security.
Right.
That's a sneaky, insidious telling people like, oh, we're cutting your payroll tax, look, because people just hate taxes in general, and they don't realize it's defunding Social Security, which the government's already in debt to.
Right. I know. And that's why, and that's also why they, that's one of the things that I talk to people about is like, well, all these taxes and stuff is like, I talk about like, the Scandinavian countries and other things. It's like their their tax rate is about 45%. It's like, well, that's way too much. It's like, yes, but then you don't have to pay for healthcare. How much do you pay for healthcare out of your paycheck? How much are you paying for your college loan? Add those two together right there. That's more than 45% of your paycheck right there.
Yeah. And people have, a lot of weird misunderstandings about what their tax dollars do and are not doing. They don't want to pay for Medicaid because they don't get Medicaid. Well, you're probably going to get Medicare someday. Having a health or community serves everyone. If we had single payer, we already pay into Medicaid would cover it from the
Right.
best studies I've seen. So we're already paying for it and just don't get it. So you're also paying for health insurance that sucks invariably. Um, yeah, that higher tax rate is well worth it, and there are other things that wouldn't be coming out anymore.
Yeah. The other thing, the one other thing that I want to get to before I get to the religious individuals is well, there's two.
Oh,
Yeah, there's two. One is, did you see the tweet that I put up about the rally that Trump had down in Florida with the with the different officers, and how the pictures that the White House had actually put out was actually photoshopped
God.
to show a
Yeah, it's
larger
beautiful. Yeah.
crowd. Yeah, that see, but that scares me because that's propaganda in its highest,
Yeah.
and that scares the ever that that's when that's when my fascism siren goes woo woo. And
Yeah, it's
trust me,
completely blatant. It should absolutely
yeah,
be illegal. Like, we should be able to definitely fact check White House press releases and them to be somehow held accountable.
yeah.
And
So
altering images is, yeah, extra terrifying.
it's like that. There was a video I think Trump released early in the campaign season for him, where it was those two little kids that were running. That you see, I think everybody's seen this video of these two little kids. That were, one's African American, one's black, and one's white, and they run and they go and they hug each other and they hold hands as they're walking down the street. Well, the end of the video, they go and they run away from each other because they're running back to their parents, and they basically edit the video to where it's like they're running away from each, like the white child is causing the black child to run in fear or something to that effect, or something. And they basically edit it in this horrible way. And this was a Trump campaign video, and I'm going, and it was released on Twitter, and Twitter like took it down almost immediately. It's like, nope, that's not happening. And I wish I could have found the article about that. But yeah, they've done stuff like that in the past. And I'm just worried about what they're going to do in the future, because I know they've already been doing a lot of stuff about the races, about mail-in ballots and the lies about that. You know, Trump has been calling the coronavirus the, what kind of virus is he calling it? Have
Oh,
you listened to?
The China virus.
Yeah, he doesn't even say it right. The China. I can't do a Trump. Oh my god. Oh, it just makes my head hurt.
Yeah, it's another thing
But
he did in the interview. They sent it here. Somehow.
yeah,
Somehow. I'm not saying how.
no, it was in Washington State. You should have stopped it in Washington State, but you didn't.
His narcissistic bullshit.
Yeah.
Just
So yeah, that was one of those. So let's talk about preachers lying. Okay. um. So, uh, so there was a Newsweek published this one about a mega Louisiana. First off, as a Christian and as someone who has been fighting for more understanding in Christianity, I grew up in the South, and I grew up in the time of the PTL network, and I grew up in Jerry Falwell and all of that.
I was gonna say, I don't see Falwell in your links. How did you leave out his literally get caught with his pants down?
Well,
No,
that was
Junior.
well, right. Well, that was after I had created. Like, to be fair, that was all right. So I was after that, but yeah, if you've got that link, please put that here, because I remember. Yeah, wow, that was yeah, drunk. He looks drunk, by the way. So no,
Right?
but yeah. So Falwell, I grew up with the PTL. I grew up with Jim and Tammy Baker. Okay. They have made it to where I have a personal mission in my life to where I despise any and all mega churches, because I feel it is a affront against God. You should not have, that's okay. You should not have those kind of, you should not have that kind of church. You should not have that kind of opulence, that kind of 10,000 people in a church. Joel Osteen makes me angry. There was that hurricane that happened down there, and it was like he would not let anybody shelter in his church. This giant church that could shelter so many people.
Yeah. That
So
was
I have a problem
horrifying.
with megachurch. And they are the, to me, the antithesis of what Christ talked about. Because when Christ came, Christ talked about fighting religious norms and being about the people. So I feel this is basically taking Jesus' message and then basically turning it on its head. So I'm not thrilled with them. But so this Louisiana preacher in a megachurch basically said, "Oh, yeah, they were having services even in the height, back in April. This is when this happened, and they were having, they were still having services. Person inside the churches, shoulder to shoulder, no masks, no social distancing, and one of their parishioners died of the coronavirus or complications thereof. And he's like, "Oh, he didn't die of the coronavirus," and he was claiming that. And how can you lie when the when the guy's doctor is saying,
And the
no.
coroner.
Yeah, and the coroner's going like, no, he died of complications to he has the corona he had the coronavirus. Wow, okay. You're just trying to make sure that more people put money in your plate. I see how this works. Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the way it is. That's why a lot, like Copeland, who is another one. Um uh, they have to have those parishioners in those churches so that they can get the money out of those pockets, because they don't, because if they don't, then they're not able to buy that third, Lear jet that they need. So
Mm-hmm.
that is, and I've went off on that. I'm sorry. That's one of my, another one. Basically was claiming that he was curing the coronavirus and with faith, and and they die from it and get ill. Um,
That's how my
look,
neighbor died of it.
yeah,
They went to church, no masks, singing. He was dead within a week.
I I believe in faith and I believe in miracles. I do. However, I also believe that God gave us reason and God gave us science. And as such, we are able to use those because those are the modern day miracles. And God would not want us to go out there when there is proof, when there is denial, when there's undeniable proof that if you social distance, wear a mask, that you will be safe because you believe in God and you believe God will protect you. God doesn't protect people who aren't willing to listen. Just ask Adam and Eve. Okay. If you want to get technical, he told Adam, "Don't eat from this tree and you get to stay here forever." Adam supposedly was supposed to tell Eve. I think Eve, I don't think Adam did his job properly. Eve, yeah, it's like I think he made it more of a suggestion, and it's like, yeah, don't stay away from that tree. Don't worry about it. Eve ate from the tree. Now we're here. All right. I'm not putting all the blame on Eve. I'm putting some of the blame. I'm putting good blame on Adam too. But God, God said, "Don't do that," and you're doing it. So, God, if the
We have free
experts,
will.
yes,
He gave us, scientists.
he gave us scientists who are the experts of today, and the scientists are saying, stay 6 feet away from each other, put on a bloody mask, and you'll be okay, or at least you'll have a much lower chance if you have to go out. You know what's really great? Stay home.
Yeah.
Don't go out unless you absolutely have to. I don't even have.
I should have found a quote too, because some of those preachers are saying like how, you have to pray in public, how wearing a mask is like hiding God's image and all that. And you want to talk about lies and false witness, because there are quotes in the Bible about praying in private.
Yeah. Oh no, that's I don't have it in
Specifically
front of me.
not to
Right.
be all
Yeah.
public about it. It's
Jesus
in
taught. Yeah.
John, right?
Yeah. And I think it's in a couple of places, but the big one is like, do you see that man praying on the street right there? He is already getting his treasures. You, he was covered in sackcloth and ashes. He is already getting his reward.
Oh,
Praying.
Matthew 6:5-6. That's what I was thinking of.
Did we get a someone from the chat telling us?
No.
Oh, okay. You looked it up. Okay. But yeah.
It was in my searches because I recently used it as a reference somewhere else.
Okay. But pray in a closet. Pray by yourself. Pray quietly. Then your reward will be in heaven. That's not the exact quote, but that's the story, basically. Yeah.
Do you want the quote? I can.
Yes. Go ahead.
And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others. Truly I tell you, they have received the reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. It's pretty clear.
Yes. Yeah.
I think I need to make pamphlets and give them to people screaming on the street corners in my town. I think I have colored paper.
Are you sure?
Printer paper.
Can you find the old Chick Track font and make it that? For those who don't know Chick Tracks, look them up. They're gloriously horrible. Especially the ones about D&D for those who are geeks as well. Oh my gosh, how many of those I got in a year? Anyway,
I hate when they put them in bathrooms, like in bars.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, no, the worst is probably there's another false witness. The ones that look like money and they tip their server with it. Those people can die in hellfire.
Yeah. Instead of I've had several friends who've been waitresses, and
I just served you literally, and you think saving my soul, your entitled ass, thinks that's a tip.
Yeah, no, I've had several of my friends who have been servers who hate working Sundays, especially if they're near a certain.
Oh, yeah.
There, because it's just amazing. But then I talked about Kenny. So back in April, Kenny got and started blowing the virus away, saying that it hated heat and it hated moisture and it hated
the wind of God.
Yes, that's Kenneth Copeland. Yes. So, and it's like, and he talked about in the video how it hates heat and it hates fire, and blow away. It's like, yeah, we broke 5 million, and this is in the middle of August, and it's bloody hot here in the South. Thank you very much. So, no, I don't think it hates the heat that much. Thank you very much. Maybe, and maybe we can get a winter. Maybe it'll freeze. Who knows? At this point, I'll take anything. I don't know, but yeah. So that doesn't work.
All these guys support Trump too.
Yeah. And then I've got one down here, and this is about a white Christian worried about Black Lives Matter and how it can affect the church. Oh, Reed, you want to talk about racism and about how that will just send you over the edge? I would suggest read that on an empty stomach.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not. I browsed it and I was like, I can't do this right now. I can't.
Yeah. No, I understand.
I mean, Falwell, at least he was forced out of his position, but wow. He's not even good at lying. These are like the worst lies I have ever seen.
I agree totally with that. Yeah.
I mean, he tweeted the picture, right? Like a dumbass. Oh,
Yeah.
vacation pictures. I promise
Oh,
that's just black water in my glass. It's a prop. And oh, it was so weird. I mean, she was
and that's
pregnant, and I didn't wear these jeans for a while, so like I stuck my belly out too. I couldn't get my jeans on. Like, dude, yes, you packed for a little yacht trip vacation with pants that didn't fit, and black water, because everybody brings food coloring. And I have to tell you, you have to have a lot of it to make your water look black.
yeah. They look that black. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just.
It was just weird. It was just fun. Just joking. How's that sound? Does that sound like anybody else we know?
Oh
He was just joking.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like every other assault or whatever on the planet.
Well, when Trump started, he used to say that a lot.
Oh yeah, I'm just joking. Oh, I was joking. It was sarcasm. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
You don't get a joke. No.
I'm really good at sarcasm, and that's not what you were doing.
No. That's not sarcasm, and that's not a joke because jokes are funny.
Yeah.
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 Not funny.
Joke. Yeah.
I was pull that clip. So you want me to hit the carrot here?
Yes. Yes, there are two that are both of them are from Twitter because I spend way too much time on Twitter and it will be the death of me probably.
Probably. I'm trying to see, there's a problem because I did not watch that first one.
All right, so the first
why don't you talk about the kid?
Okay, so basically there's this kid. He's probably 15, 16. I will give him that much at most. Standing in basically the one of the hotbeds of the Ku Klux Klan he's a white kid and he's standing there at like the corner of a gas station and where you turn in to go to a Walmart with a Black Lives Matter placard. And the abuse this kid gets. I mean, there are grown adults that drive by and say, if you're standing here in 10 minutes, I'm going to come and kick your ass. Okay. Yeah. He's a kid. I don't know if you saw any what he looked like, but he is a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
there's these dude, you're white.
And anyways, so yeah, I'm just like I'm flabbergasted, that the abuse he get, and he stood there all day. And there was this one kid who came, another I want to say a little bit older teenager, probably 19, 20, came up. He was wearing a mask. None of these other yahoos were wearing masks, by the way. And yes, I'm allowed to say yahoos. I'm in the South. And he comes up and he hands him this note and he nods to him and it's like, keep up the good work. Thanks at the end of the video. And it's just powerful. And it's just like, giving him a little encouragement at the end of, all this abuse this kid took. And I was just like, wow. And then we got another Black Lives person coming out. And when I saw this, I was like, I just fell on the floor and thought I was having a stroke or I was on shrooms or something.
Bundy? Holy
yeah.
crap. For those of you who don't know who he is, you probably remember seeing reports at the National Wildlife Refuge and that he held hostage. It was that grazing rights thing, supposedly, but it was basically just a bunch of armed yahoos holding the land hostage.
Yeah, it's the one that he. I remember they were asking for food supply, so people sent them a whole bunch of gummy dicks.
Bag of dicks. That's what you get. Yep.
But at least it was food. I mean, at least but they said him a whole, yeah. So, but no, he was one of those lands rights activist people and everything. And he's a libertarian, and I don't agree with him on 1,000 things. But he came out and basically was like, "Why don't you support Black Lives Matter? This government is a totalitarian government. If you truly believe in, I'm going to go and march at a Black Lives Matter, because if you truly believe in Second Amendment rights and against the, totalitarian governments or against, fascist governments, why aren't you out there?" And I'm going, wow, I'm just, okay, I think I'm having a stroke, or is that the light lord?
Yeah.
So, all right. So you do, uh, you've got a couple down here below the one that I'm going to I lose my mind about. What's the ones right below that one?
Okay. Well, those should have been under stick. Uh, yeah, they are.
They are. They
Okay.
are.
Those were just points about, and we already discussed ad nauseum Trump's little interview.
Right.
But I did want to just make sure these citations got in our notes, and folks out there, you can go see that because we did mention it in a previous show. I'm sure the First Step Act. Like, it's not that nothing has been done. He did sign the First Step Act, which helped formerly incarcerated people reenter society. And he signed it in December 2018. This was long, long in the works, but he did sign it, and it really is a fantastic thing, especially because of the way incarceration is structured in the United States. It really was a big help to the black community. And when he mentioned criminal justice reform, he did have that leg to stand on. So I wanted to put a reference in about the First Step Act. However, I also have included from civilrights.org a really long list of rollbacks he has instituted in civil and human rights. So those will also be in that article for people to look up. What I was looking for in particular and having a little trouble with the referencing with a new article, I could only find an old one, but there's part of the Voting Rights Act that did not get renewed. So there is a specific to the legislation that John Lewis helped put in place that some of our rights have been reversed as far as voting, and then of course that fits into his current bullshit that I want to beat him with a stick for. He's been all along pushing this voter ID stuff, which we know disenfranchises people. That's been part of his shtick. And now it's the anti-mail-in ballot, which is weird bullshit because Republicans have always kicked our asses in getting absentee ballots filled. And it was another really disgusting part of the interview where he was talking about people being mailed ballots. And they're not. They're being mailed applications, which the reporter pointed out several times. But that's a really, really big difference. And one of the Republican tactics that I have seen here in my town every election cycle that drives me nuts is there are PACs, invariably right-wing ones, that target older individuals in particular, and sometimes younger new voters, and they mail them something that looks like but is not an application for an absentee ballot, or something that looks like a ballot, and tricks people into thinking they have voted. This has been a right-wing tactic for many years, and they also get more absentee votes than we do because they still use phone trees and get all those older white folks to get out to the polls. And I have worked actively I was the damn state director for the voter identification or information project. I know this and I know how it works. We had somebody in Charlotte prosecuted for it just a few years ago, this kind of thing.
Right.
So, yeah. Apply now. Get your absentee ballot. people are full of shit. It's actually more secure. The systems they use to scan those ballots do not take forever. They don't take any longer to count than if you go in yourself. Plus, they can just do it in a shift, especially if you take advantage of early voting. And here's a bonus a lot of people don't know about. It is easy to verify that your vote was counted if you do absentee. I know people that don't trust the system as much and do absentee for this reason. I was a chief judge at my polling place. Part of the protocol is that we get a list of everyone who voted absentee at that polling place. We get that list in advance and have to post it on the door. So for all your secret ballot who nobody knows how you voted, but the elections board can tell that you did vote. Just like when you go get your ballot, you get your name and address, your ballot is barcoded. It is possible to verify your vote. And if you vote ahead of time and you do it absentee, you're going to be able to check that it was actually counted on election day. So, sorry. I know that was long, but this civil rights and voting rights stuff is very, very important to me. And Trump is doing his best to set us up for some kind of bullshit where he's just undermining the public trust in our system so that he can say, they cheated, like a big fucking baby.
Right. No, I agree. And he's also his postmaster general is also a Trump man, and he's also fucking with the post office right now.
Yes.
So keep that in mind. So my stick.
Don't you blaspheme in here! Don't you blaspheme in here!
Is thank you, Sister Franklin. My stick is so how. All right, you may want to turn down your volumes a little bit if you're listening at all, headphones, whatever. So this may get a little ranty. I'll probably have much more to say about this later, but I will try to be succinct. So there is this person who claimed to be a preacher who is anti-mask. Fine, you can be stupid. Who went into a Dunkin' Donuts and got 2 coffees and was leaving. And the manager of the store is like, sir, for my understanding, now this is his tale because it's
I did watch that.
It is. I only watched up until like 9 minutes of it before I was picking up my computer to throw it across the room, and I'm like, nope, can't do that. It's the only computer I have, and I'm like, I can't throw it across the room. But from the other articles and everything I have read, my understanding is that the individual, the manager of the store is like, there is a new policy that is now mandatory that any customers coming in the store has to wear a mask. Well, I'm not wearing a mask, and I'll be here at 5 o'clock. It's like, sir, it's mandatory. You have to wear a mask. Okay. And I will be on shift at 5 o'clock. And if you're not wearing a mask, you will not be served. And according to the Reverend, he said that he lightly kicked the door open with his foot. All right. So when I have things in my hand and I'm leaving a convenience store or a grocery or a store that doesn't have automatic doors, I never use my foot, especially if there's a glass pane in it, because I am a giant of a man who could probably kick the door in. And I also wear boots. And he already said he was wearing, workman's boots, and workman's boots have steel toes, which are very easy to shatter glass. So I normally back out because that my hands aren't touching anything. My foot's not touching anything. He said he lightly kicked it. I believe he probably tried to kick the door out. That is my personal belief. And the manager called him on it. It's like, sir, you can't do that to our door. And so he went back in and he basically threatened this probably 18, 20-year-old manager of a Dunkin' Donuts that he was going to take his workman's boot and throttle him with it and put it on his throat. And then the remainder of the video is him talking about how this is not, these masks aren't masks. That they are that people who wear masks are sheeple. I've got a thing about that in a second.
They're gags.
That they're gags. That they're the mark of the beast. He said that in one of the things, and I nearly lost my ever-loving mind at that point. I'm like, I had to stop the video for a second and go, "No, you didn't. No, you didn't." Because in that case, I want you to go and have something done medically by a doctor, and you demand that they take their masks off before they do it, because it's the mark of the beast. If you're going to say that and you think that that's the case, then demand that any doctor who does a medical procedure on you has to take off that mark of the beast. Okay? And okay. So he called it for sheeple. Do you know what a preacher is? What one of the terms for a preacher is? They're the shepherd of their church, because they are also, the church is also known as the flock, because Jesus was the shepherd. And so preachers are known as the shepherd of their flock.
I love that. Did you saw the meme I posted? That was my favorite this week, was the like, sheep is a really funny insult for Christians to use.
Yeah.
Come to think of it, insults are a funny thing for Christians to use.
Like, no, I and I've never understand that sheeple thing. It's like, why are you being sheep? Well, we're supposed to be Jesus is the shepherd and also the Lamb of God. And I'm like, no, that's not how this works. But this preacher, this reverend, went off, and then he pounds his chest and is like, Trump 2020, I want to contact the ACLU. I want to contact anybody I can. I want to find out what state he lives in, and I want to contact that attorney general, and I want to have his tax exemptions revoked, because that's what he deserves at this point, because he is basically preaching politics. I am not in a pulpit. I can preach politics, and I am taxed. And if I went to a church, and if I had my own church, I would pay taxes, because I have this podcast, and that podcast would not change, and I would be preaching politics on this show. So I believe in that. I believe in the separation of church and state. And if I'm merging the two, then part of that is I'm needing to give to Caesar, and he needs to start handing over money to Caesar at this point. And here's the thing, it's the law. And Jesus said, give unto Caesar what is Caesar. The law says wear the damn masks. So do what Jesus would have done and put on a mask. Don't get upset that
don't
someone
be a mask hole.
Yeah, don't get up. Thank you. You're trying to keep me from losing my mind, aren't you? You're trying to make me laugh so I don't go completely insane.
Ending with stick is difficult, but don't be a mask hole is a good tagline.
You know what? I'm gonna leave it there. It's like, I will do a sermon this weekend. I will do a Barney sermon where I can do my hellfire and brimstone sermon on this guy. I will watch the entire video. I will then go off. And if you want to watch
it and pause it and scream at him periodically, that would be a good show.
I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to set that up, but fine. Yeah, I'll figure something out. But yeah. I will set that up so that September doesn't have to listen to me go off. and if you want to be entertained with my completely losing my mind about another person who claims to be a person of God being so unchristian like that it makes me just like want to stab my own eyes out, then yeah, I promise that by Sunday I will have something out for you guys. But that's my stick. So yeah, so thank you, Sister Aretha, again for that. We do appreciate that very much. Thank you. And thank you again for joining us at Heresy and Hearsay. I'm Reverend Barney. You can follow me on Twitch and I'm sorry, not Twitch. I don't have on Twitter at Seth Roth II. You can also follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and any podcast catcher, as well as our website. Just Google us. Don't forget the Patreon page, where $2 a month can keep this show going.
Now, I'm September, and you can follow me on Twitch at 9 of 12, which is the same thing as following the Rev here, because this is where we do the show at twitch.tv slash 9 of 12. You can also find me that way on Twitter, but I don't check it like he does, so you might want to tweet at Heresy and Hearsay. Hear me on the Geek Girls podcast on Monday nights. Thanks for listening today, and bless your hearts.